My name is David Larry. I am 90 years old, and I have been sitting with this for a long time now, trying to figure out if I even have the right words for it. I got married in 1960. I was 24 years old and I thought I had it figured out. I really did. I thought love was enough. I thought two people who wanted to be together would naturally find their way. I thought the rest would just work itself out. Her name was Ruth, and she was the most real person I have ever known in my life. We had two children. Michael came first, born in 1963. Caroline followed in 1966. I watched those two grow up, get married, have children of their own. I have more grandchildren than I can count on both hands, and 4 great-grandchildren now. Life filled up in ways I couldn't have imagined when I was that young man standing at the altar in my press suit, nervous and proud and completely unaware of what I was walking into. Ruth died a few years ago. Pancreatic cancer. It moves fast, that illness. You barely have time to catch your breath before it takes someone. She was here, and then she was going, and then she was gone. And I have been alone in this house since then, and I have had a lot of time to think. That is actually why I am doing this. Not because I need to confess, not because I am looking for anyone to tell me I did my best. I am doing this because I am 90 years old, and I can see clearly now in a way I could not see when I was busy living. And if even one person hears this and holds their partner a little differently tonight, then this was worth the telling. Ruth and I were married for over 60 years. People hear that number, and they get a look on their face, like it is something impressive, like we had everything figured out. The truth is, we nearly lost each other more times than I can easily admit. There were years when we were in the same house and felt like strangers. Years when I thought this isn't working, and I'm not sure it ever will. Years when she was hurting and I didn't even notice because I was too busy noticing other things. I am not going to dress that up. There's no point in dressing it up at my age. What I want to share with you are 5 mistakes we made, not hypothetical ones, not things I read in a book, the real ones, the ones that cost us years, the ones I would give anything to go back and undo. The first mistake was something I didn't even realize I was doing for a long time. I was keeping score. Not on paper, not in any way I could have pointed to and said, "Here, look at this list." But in my head, quietly, I was tracking everything. I worked long hours. I brought home the money. I fixed what needed fixing around the house. I showed up to the things I was supposed to show up to. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I was keeping a running count of all of it. I thought Ruth was doing the same. And she was, actually. She had her own list. The meals she cooked, the nights she stayed up with sick children, the things she gave up, the plans she set aside. We were both standing in our own corner of the marriage with our invisible ledgers, waiting for the other one to notice, to acknowledge, to say thank you in the right way. And neither of us ever fully did. What happened, slowly, over years, was that the relationship started to feel like a transaction. Like we were business partners rather than people who chose each other. I would do something and think, well, I did that. Now what is she going to do? And the resentment would build, quiet and slow, like water getting into the walls of a house. You don't see the damage until it's already deep. I remember the year I hurt my back badly. 1974, I think it was. I was out of work for nearly 3 months. Ruth carried everything during that time. The children, the house, the bills, all of it. And instead of being grateful, which is what I should have been, I felt uncomfortable, almost embarrassed, because it threw off the count. She was doing more and I couldn't keep up, and somehow that felt like a problem to me instead of just life being what it is. I didn't tell her any of that, of course. I just got quieter, pulled back, let her handle things while I recovered, but with a kind of distance between us that didn't need to be there. It was Caroline, our daughter, who said something that stayed with me. She must have been about 12, maybe 13. We were all at the dinner table, and Ruth and I had been particularly cold to each other that week. Nothing dramatic, Just the small absence of warmth that a child picks up on, even when adults pretend it isn't there. And Caroline looked up from her plate and said, "Why don't you two ever laugh together anymore?" Just like that. A child's observation. And Ruth and I looked at each other, and neither of us had an answer. I went to bed that night and I thought about it for a long time. And I realized that we had stopped feeling like a team. We were two people managing a household, but we were not together in any real sense of that word. And the scorekeeping was a big part of why. It took us a while to let it go. You don't unlearn a habit overnight. But we started slowly to stop counting. To just do things because they needed doing. To trust that the other person was giving what they could, even when it didn't look even from the outside. And the warmth came back. Not all at once. Gradually, the way warmth always comes back if you give it enough space. Marriage is not supposed to be fair at every moment. Life is not fair at every moment. There are seasons when one of you carries more. There are seasons when you are the one being carried. The counting gets in the way of the carrying. The second mistake was that we spent years trying to change each other. Ruth was organized. She liked structure. She knew where everything was, had a plan for most things, liked to know what was happening and when. It gave her a sense of safety, I think. A sense of control in a world that can feel very uncontrolled. I was the opposite. I was looser. I liked to be spontaneous. I didn't see the point of planning 2 weeks out for a Saturday dinner. I liked to wake up and see where the day took us. That felt like living to me. And for the longest time, we drove each other absolutely crazy. I thought she was rigid, too careful, too wrapped up in schedules. I would come home with some last-minute idea, and she would look at me with that expression she had. The one that said, "David, I already have a plan for this evening." And I would feel deflated. Like the fun had been drained out of something before it even started. She thought I was careless, too loose, not serious enough about the things that mattered. She would spend time organizing the house, the finances, the children's schedules, and I would come in and disrupt it without even meaning to. And she would feel, I later learned, like her efforts weren't respected. Like I didn't value what she was trying to build. We both spent a good many years trying to nudge the other one toward the middle. I would make little comments about her rigidity. She would make little comments about my impulsiveness. And none of it worked. None of it ever works. You cannot nudge a person into being someone they are not. You just make them feel like who they are isn't quite right. What it created between us was a kind of low-level tension. Never explosive most of the time, just a constant quiet pressure, like wearing shoes that are slightly too small. You can walk in them, you can manage, but there is always this discomfort that doesn't go away. The shift happened somewhere in our 40s. I can't give you an exact date, but I remember a conversation we had one evening where Ruth said to me, "I have been trying to make you more like me for 15 years, and it hasn't worked, and I think I have been hurting you by doing it." And I sat there and I heard that, and then I said something I hadn't planned to say. I said, "I've been doing the same thing to you." And we were both quiet for a while. After that, something changed. It didn't happen overnight. But we started to see each other's differences as things that could work together rather than things that needed to be fixed. Her planning kept our family steady through hard years. My spontaneity brought lightness into weeks that would have been otherwise too serious. We needed both. We just hadn't been able to see that while we were busy being annoyed at each other. I want you to hear this carefully. Your partner is not a project. They are not a rough draft of the person you wanted. They are who they are, shaped by everything that happened to them before they ever met you. And when you spend your energy trying to change them, you are not loving them. You are rejecting them, slowly, in ways that settle into the bones. The third mistake is one that was more Ruth's to make than mine, though I played my part in it too. We avoided difficult conversations for far too long. Ruth was not someone who liked conflict. She had grown up in a house where emotions were kept tidy, where you didn't make scenes, where you swallowed the difficult things and moved on. And she brought that with her into our marriage. When something was wrong, She would usually go quiet. She wouldn't say, "I'm upset." She wouldn't say, "You hurt me when you did that." She would just become a little more still, a little more contained. And I, being a man who was not trained to look closely at those things, would often not notice, or would notice and convince myself it would pass on its own. What happened over time was that things accumulated. Small things. Frustrations that had nowhere to go. Moments where she felt unseen or dismissed or taken for granted. She never said the words out loud, and I never asked the right questions, and so none of it ever got resolved. It just stacked up. And then, every so often, one small thing would trigger everything that had been stacking. Something ordinary. I remember one evening, I'm embarrassed to tell this, the argument started over milk. I had forgotten to buy milk on the way home. Simple enough. But the argument that came out of that was not about milk. It never is. It was about the 20 other things she had been holding quietly for months. The time she had felt like an afterthought. The time she had needed something and hadn't been able to say it. The time she had carried things alone because asking felt harder than just managing. And I sat there thinking I forgot the milk. How did we get here? And not understanding at all why she was as hurt as she was. It took us a long time to learn how to talk to each other honestly. And I mean really honestly. Not the surface conversations that married people get comfortable with, but the underneath ones. The ones that are harder to start and harder to hear. Ruth had to learn to speak things when they were small, before they grew. And I had to learn to ask. To actually look at her and say, "How are you really?" and mean it. To sit with the answer even when it was uncomfortable. Difficult conversations do not have to be fights. I know that now. But it took us decades to understand it. A thing said calmly when it is small is so much kinder than a thing that finally erupts after years of being swallowed. If there is something you are holding right now, something you have been meaning to say to someone you love, please do not wait until it becomes too heavy to carry quietly. Say it. Find a way to say it. It will not be a perfect conversation. But a hard conversation had early is mercy compared to a hard conversation had too late. The fourth mistake was one we made together, slowly, without either of us really deciding to. We put the relationship on autopilot. You have to understand that life gets full. When Michael and Caroline were young, we were managing jobs and school and activities and all the normal chaos of raising children. There was not a lot of time for anything else. And somewhere in there, without us noticing, the relationship stopped being something we tended to. It became something we assumed would hold itself together because it always had. Our conversations became mostly logistical. Who is picking up the kids? What time is dinner? Did you call the insurance company? We talked constantly, but we weren't really talking. We weren't sharing anything. We weren't asking each other how we felt about things. What we were thinking about at night, what we were hoping for, what we were afraid of. The dates stopped. We used to go out, just the two of us, when we were first married. Nothing elaborate. A meal somewhere, a walk, just time together that was set aside for being together. But gradually that fell away. There was always a reason it wasn't a good week for it. Always something else that took priority. And we told ourselves we were fine. The marriage is fine. We are managing. We are getting through. Fine is such a dangerous word. A couple we had known for years, friends of ours from church, announced they were divorcing after nearly 30 years together. And it shook me. It shook both of us. We sat in this kitchen, and we talked about them and what happened. And then at some point the conversation shifted, and Ruth said quietly, "David, do you think we have been paying enough attention to us?" And I knew the answer was no. I had known it for a while. But having her say it out loud made it real. We started making small changes after that. We started having dinner together again, without the television on. We started taking walks on Sunday evenings. We started talking again, really talking, like we had when we were young and everything felt new. And it helped. It actually helped. The warmth that had been fading came back in pieces, the way it does when you finally give it room to. But here is what I want you to hear. We waited too long. The children were nearly grown before we really woke up. We had let years pass on autopilot. Years we could have been closer. Years we could have been building something together. We didn't lose the marriage, but we lost time inside it. And time is the one thing you cannot get back. Whatever season you're in, whatever you have on your plate right now, please do not stop tending to the person you chose. Not because it takes some grand gesture, but because a marriage, like anything alive, needs to be fed. A walk, a real conversation, an evening with nothing on the agenda except each other. It matters more than it seems in the moment. The fifth mistake, and I have thought about this one the most, was that we forgot we were on the same side. Arguments are a normal part of living with another person. I understand that. You are two different human beings, shaped by different things, with different instincts and different ways of seeing. Disagreement is not the problem. The problem is what you do with it. We made disagreements into battles. I wanted to be right. Ruth wanted to be right. And we would go at it sometimes, not with anger exactly, but with a kind of determination. Like the outcome of the argument was a verdict on who was the better person, who had thought it through properly, who understood the situation, and the other person would become the obstacle between us and that verdict. What that does to a relationship is subtle but real. You start to see your partner as someone to argue against, rather than someone to argue with. There is a big difference between those two things. One puts you on opposite sides. The other puts you on the same side, trying to work something out together. There was a period in the late 1980s when Michael was going through a very hard time. I won't go into the details, but he needed support, both of us, steady and consistent, over a long stretch of time. And Ruth and I disagreed deeply on how to handle it, how much to step in, how much to let him find his own way. Both of us thought we were right. Both of us thought the other was making a mistake. But the situation didn't allow us the luxury of fighting about it. Michael needed us to be united. And so we had to learn quickly to listen to each other, to actually hear what the other person was seeing that we might be missing, to combine what we both understood rather than trying to override each other. And it worked. Not perfectly. Nothing does. But we got through it together. And afterward, Ruth said to me something I have never forgotten. She said, "That is how it should have been all along." She was right. It should have been. We wasted so many years of small arguments treating each other like opponents when we were always, at the core of it, on the same side, wanting the same things, wanting a good life, wanting healthy children, wanting a home that felt like a home. We just kept letting the method of getting there become a point of division rather than the thing that united us. I am 90 years old, and I still catch myself sometimes, even now, even alone in this house, thinking about an argument from 30 years ago and wanting to be right about it. Old habits are stubborn. They don't vanish just because you get older. But the difference is that I notice it now, and I let it go. And that, I suppose, is what growing up really looks like. Not the absence of the old patterns, but the ability to catch them and put them down. Ruth has been gone for a few years now. And the thing I notice most, the thing that surprises me in its smallness, is how much I miss just talking to her. Not the big conversations, not the hard ones, just the ordinary back and forth of a Tuesday evening, telling her something I saw that day, hearing what she thought about it. That simple exchange that I took for granted every day for 60 years. I would give a great deal to have one more of those evenings. That is what I want you to understand, if you are hearing this. The ordinary moments are the relationship. They are not the pause between the important times. They are the thing itself. And they go quickly. Even when the days feel slow, the years are fast. And one morning you look up and the person you love is not there anymore. And you are holding all the things you meant to say and all the evenings you meant to be more present for. I learned through hardship, as I said at the start, not through perfection. Ruth and I earned what we had. It cost us both something to get to the place where we finally understood how to be good to each other. And the sorrow I carry is not for the marriage itself, because by the end it was something I am deeply grateful for, but for the years we lost before we found our way. We didn't have to lose those years. That is the part that sits heavy. Now I want to speak to you directly, if I may, especially if you are young, especially if you are somewhere in the middle of a life that still has most of its road ahead of it. I know you are busy. I know the world asks a great deal of you. I know there are pressures I probably cannot fully imagine in the way things are now. But I also know that some things have not changed at all, because human beings have not changed. We still need the same things we have always needed. To be seen, to be heard, to belong to something, to matter to someone. And the habits you build now, the small daily choices you make, will determine what your life looks like from where I am sitting. Stop keeping score. I mean this in every part of your life, not just in marriage. When you enter into any relationship worth having, whether it is a partnership, a friendship, a family bond, you have to be willing to give without constantly calculating what you are getting back. That doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you. It means letting go of the tally. The tally will poison you. I have seen it do it. Accept the people you love for who they are, not the version of them you are hoping they will eventually become. The actual person in front of you right now. Their differences are not defects. They are not a problem to solve. They are part of what makes the relationship worth anything. Talk to each other, please. When something is wrong, say it while it is still small. I know it is uncomfortable. I know it feels easier to let things pass. But things do not pass. They accumulate. And accumulated hurt is so much harder to clear than fresh hurt. Find a way to say the difficult things calmly and early. It is a skill. It takes practice. But it is one of the most valuable things you can develop. Never stop paying attention to the people who matter to you. Never let a relationship run on assumption. Don't assume it's fine because nobody is crying. Don't assume it's fine because the bills are paid and the schedule is working and everyone is making it through the days. Ask, look, be present. Choose to be there, not just physically but actually there, eyes open, paying attention. And remember that the person you are building a life with is not your opponent. They are your teammate. Every difficult conversation, every disagreement, every hard season, approach it as something you are navigating together, not something you are competing over. The only way to win in a marriage is for both of you to win. And the only way for both of you to win is to stop trying to beat each other. I also want to say something to you about time, because I feel it more acutely than I ever have. You have something I do not have, and that is the one thing that cannot be bought or recovered or borrowed. You have years ahead of you. And that sounds obvious when you are inside it. But I am telling you from the outside that it goes. It genuinely goes. The thing you are putting off until you have more time, until the kids are older, until work settles down, until the right moment, that thing will run out of tomorrows before you know what happened. Use the time you have, not for grand gestures, not for perfect moments, for the quiet, consistent showing up that actually builds something. Have the conversation tonight. Take the walk this week. Say the thing you have been meaning to say. Be with the person in front of you instead of halfway somewhere else in your head. I lost Ruth to illness. I had no say in that. But I lost other things I could have kept, and that is the part I have to sit with. I lost years of closeness because I was keeping score. I lost intimacy because we were both too stubborn to stop trying to change each other. I lost trust because we let things go unsaid too long. I lost connection because we let the relationship coast when it needed tending. I lost partnership because I was too interested in winning. None of those were catastrophic moments. None of them made the news. They were quiet, slow, invisible erosions, and by the time I could see them clearly, a lot of ground had already been lost. Please do not wait until you can see them clearly. Please look now, while there is still time to tend them. I think about the man I was at 24, standing at that altar, and I think about everything I did not know. I was not a bad man. I was just young and unaware and full of assumptions. I want to hand something back to that man, and I cannot. But maybe I can hand it to you. I am 90 years old. I have held my wife through cancer. I have buried my father and some of my friends. I have watched my grandchildren be born and my great-grandchildren take their first steps. I have sat in this house long enough now to understand what actually mattered in all of it. It was never the career. It was never the house or the car or what people thought of us from the outside. It was the time spent close to the people I loved. It was the conversations that went past midnight. It was the walks where neither of us said much. It was the evenings when Caroline would sit with us and just be with us, not because anything important was happening, but because being together was enough. I would trade almost anything to have more of those evenings. Since you are still building yours, don't waste them. If this reached you somehow, if something in this meant anything to you at all, I would be glad to know. I'm not saying that to fish for something. I am saying it because I am an old man who wants to believe that this was worth the telling. Be kind to the people you love. Be patient with yourself. And please, please don't wait until you are running out of time to start paying attention. And before I go, I just want to say something quietly. If you made it this far with me, through all of it, then something in this story touched you. And that means something to me. It really does. If this felt true to you, if it reminded you of someone you love, or made you think about something you have been putting off, please share it. Pass it on to someone who might need to hear it. A friend, a sibling, someone who is married, someone who is about to be. You never know whose life a simple story might land in at exactly the right moment. And if you are willing, leave a comment below. Tell me what stayed with you. Tell me where you are watching from. I genuinely want to know what country you are in, what corner of this wide world you are sitting in right now, as you hear an old man from Fairhope, Alabama, talk about love and time and regret. Subscribe if you want more of these conversations. Turn on the bell so you do not miss the next one. And like this video if it was worth your time. Thank you for listening to an old man. It meant more than you know.